What's up, y'all? You know what time it is? It's about to be that time.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
And we're back. Divisive story developments that warrant a chat arrived in the most recent chapters, talking about 1133 and 1134. After 19 years, Robin and Saul have reunited. And by the way, when I say that it has been 19 years, I mean that it has been exactly 19 years. Robin met Saul in chapter 392, titled Dead Is She, which was released in the second week of December 2005, classified as Shonen Jump issue number 2 of 2006. 1133, the reunion, is also classified as Shonen Jump issue number 2 of 2025 because it also was released in the second week of December. Math piece strikes again. Another quick math piece, since it's been a while. Louis Arnault was introduced in chapter 115, which was issue 1 of 1999. Outside of the Ace Light novels and Masked Deuce's backstory, Arnault was never mentioned again in the story until 1132. Also, issue 1, both chapters released in the first week of December, 25 years apart. But I'll save talk of Louis Arnault for my next video. Main topic for today is whether or not Saul's reunion is a good thing for the story and why. And I know that it has been a while since the last dedicated video. I made a community post briefly going into the reasoning behind that. I'll talk about it later in the video. But for now, like, comment, subscribe if you're feeling the vibe. Here we go. If the anime's #1 issue is pacing, then the #1 manga issue for One Piece is pretty much universally accepted to be the way that it handles death and various fakeouts. Deaths are a very valuable asset to an author. They are a primal way to elicit a reaction from your reader, so long as you don't have any pre-existing elements of resurrection embedded into the story world, such as Dragon Balls or recurring access to time travel. These types of elements pacify any worry that your characters couldn't return. Kind of like how a room full of organs on Egghead clued us in that Vegapunk was never going to die and could always come back via a very classic sci-fi trope. 1134 revealed that we will in fact be getting a fully cloned Vegapunk. Some will take issue with this, and I'm not going to spend this video defending that choice by Oda other than to say that this is the most make your cake and eat it to death of the series, and I predicted it pretty close to the start of Egghead. Oda got to actually kill someone and juice the death, but had a back pocket way to bring them back that was rooted in the character's abilities.
You just wait till it grows back!
Anyway, more importantly, for an author, death is a primal way to get a reaction out of your characters, a way to propel them. Grief is the great motivator, or so they say. Massive change comes from permanent loss of a friend, family member, or loved one. An effective use of this in One Piece is Ace. Ace died, and it changed not only the entire course of the story, but also Luffy. It propelled him to be better. Ace effectively became Luffy's Belmere, his hero look, and you could argue that Marineford is Luffy's true sad flashback, and obviously I'm not being literal there, it was a real-time story that just so happens to have had the same punch of the best flashbacks. I often use Belmere and hero look as the golden standard of deaths in One Piece, because not only are they definitively 100% gone, Oda was able to check every box and really created a template to be shared with each Straw Hat going forward. Keyword, template. Some fans are opposed to patterns in the story and love the idea that the mold constantly breaks, but the truth is that while One Piece is one of the greatest pieces of fiction of all time, it is objectively formulaic most of the time. Now, the mastery comes with how Oda finds ways to mask his formulas. This doesn't apply to every part of the story, and most arcs and plots follow similar patterns though, or at least have the same archetypes to carry each plot. Why I've always believed that Robin's backstory, consciously or otherwise, lands so high on many people's favorite backstory lists is that it is actually the first backstory to really disrupt the mold. Not entirely, but there are key differences between Robin's past and the other members of the crew. One major takeaway is that aside from adding color to our new member's identity, Robin's flashback was the first new crew member backstory to reward the reader for playing along with the story by incorporating ideas and previously established characters to round out the larger plot. Belmir wasn't looking for the Void History, nor did we even know what that was yet. Banchina, Kuina, and Hiraluk, as far as we know, were not looking for the One Piece, etc. So I get why Robin's backstory resonates, because it just feels like it's on a bigger scale than the rest. But I think the problem that most fans who take issue with Saul's return is that they have always viewed Saul as the Belmir or Hiraluk of Robin's flashback, when in reality, the better examples of that archetype have always been Olvia and Clover. In fact, Robin's backstory works as a greatest hits compilation because you have Olvia taking the Belmir role as a mother estranging herself to protect her child from an oppressive force, and you have a Hiraluk in Clover. Only Clover isn't trying to cure one tiny country, he's on a mission to arguably cure the world through knowledge. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I thought Saul was alive these past 20 years. Ice Time Capsule brought various community theories, but we have to look at all of this from the current lens to analyze Oda's intentions accurately. Saul was, and forever will be, in hindsight, more of a Genzo archetype of Robin's past. The character that is friends with her mother, steps up to protect her, gets horribly attacked, yet lives. To be the connection point between her and her true family. A character that, at the end of the story, Robin can return to, just like everybody else has a connection character to their past. But you could simplify this idea to argue that there is a Shanks parallel for Saul as well, considering he got maimed protecting her, inspired her to carry on, and lived. Let me remind you that Saul and Robin only knew each other for a few days. And that's the strength of Oda's writing to create a bond that works at a high level in such a short time frame, but Robin wasn't any more connected to Saul than Clover or Olvia. Clover was Robin's true Shanks, her Hiraluk, her Zeph, her Tom, the character that wasn't her true parental figure, but has a professional lifestyle that they are driven to emulate. Each Straw Hat has one or more of these, and not all of them need to be dead for that specific archetype to be effective. Saul actually changes and inverts the mold a bit by emulating the person that he inspired, Robin, as Saul has effectively become an archaeologist or at least a scholar. Now, the criticism comes from the idea that if Saul was always meant to be alive, Oda should have never faked his death and left us to believe that Saul was dead for 20 years. Some feel that a quote retcon of this nature could mean that any character could come back now. This kind of thinking is a bit inflammatory, reductive, and reactionary. Were your potential tears or sadness wasted for 20 years? Or whenever you started the series? No. It's very possible that Oda had this planned from the start of the flashback, just as he did with Sabo's fake death, thanks to having Kuzan use an attack called Ice Time Capsule. And I'm aware that Time Capsule isn't actually the final attack, but either way, it's a good back pocket tool to pull later. Oda did not have the entire story mapped out at the start, but he did have the end, and I'm certain most of Elbaf will have been something Oda had planned for decades, as it is the inspiration for the story to begin with, meaning Saul could have always been a part of the plan. And to clarify, when I mentioned Sabo earlier, I mean in terms of the flashback. Whether or not Sabo was planned from the start is questionable, but Oda knew he was going to at least keep Sabo alive while writing the Ace Sabo Luffy flashback. And this thinking could apply to Saul as well. Regardless, Saul's back. And sure, there is a feel-good element to all of this. Some critics, I'm sure, are saying it is potentially feel-good for the sake of feel-good, that it won't move the narrative, and that it serves no purpose. The boy who cried wolf. I want to address this main criticism and help others understand why this works in ways other story elements did not. First, let's address this feel-good aspect. Now, like the rest of the Straw Hats, Robin has at least one person from her past. She deserves this, and it does not damage the uniqueness of her being the sole survivor of Ohara, because Saul is not from Ohara, he is from Elbaf. Now, Luffy has Makino, Dadan, the bandits, and most importantly Sabo. Zoro has Kyoshiro and the dojo, as well as Johnny and Yosaku. Nami has Nojiko, Genzo, and Kokoyashi. Usopp has Kaya and the Vegetable Kids. Sanji has Zeph, Patty, Carne, the rest of the cooks at the Baratier, and Reiju. Chopper has Koreha. Frankie has Kokoro, Chimney, Zanbai, Kiwi, Mose, the Frankie family, but most importantly, Iceberg. Brooke has Laboon and Crocus. Robin, for the entire story, has had no one. What could her epilogue have consisted of? Now she can return to Saul, tell him what it all means at the end, and it pushes the narrative because Saul has inherited the will of O'Hara. This isn't a situation like Pell, who died, came back, and was relegated to the background. Maybe getting one unimportant line every 8 years, only to be recently seen flying around the Holy Land looking for members of the Nefertari family that he would never find. Quick sidebar, but the scene reminded me of Season 2 of the Walking Dead AMC series, where a certain character goes missing and the show spends so much screen time, episode over episode, on Daryl looking for the character in the woods, although Daryl was a character created for the show who's not in the comics. So as a filler character, especially so early in the series, he was never going to find that character. Naturally, he does not. Others do. That's Pell. He is basically filler now. Hashtag Chaka can do it. Saul, on the other hand, is absolutely going to be an active character responsible for divulging information, accepting information, and transmuting information. He is a character that we can't remove from the scene and replace with anyone else and get the same feeling or information. You can take any post-Alabasta scene and replace Pell with Chaka and nothing changes. But replace Saul with another giant or a new character and you lose all of the interesting Robin development and potential for development. Why didn't Saul go looking for Robin? This is probably a criticism, but let's remember that Robin was on the run for 20 years and kept herself very well hidden during that time. Saul likely would not have even heard about her exploits until after Annie's lobby, outside of her early, bounty poster. And keep in mind that Saul is also a criminal at this point. Saul renounced the Marines and the world government to continue Clover and Ulvia's fight. Allowing the world to know he is still alive would put a huge target on his back. Saul, by remaining hidden, was able to protect and read all of these books in secret to become one of the most dangerous characters in the series. And yes, Robin had her own sets of tragedies after O'Hara and still led a rough life, but no one has been able to acknowledge the hardship that she went through because no one up to this point knew where she truly came from. Saul does. Saul, as a character, is able to give Robin the one thing that no one else in the world can, not even the Straw Hats. During Annie's lobby, Luffy was able to push Robin towards finding a reason to live, to carry on, but Saul is very much the only person still alive in this world who knew Robin as a child and can thank her for surviving, who can be happy to see her, who can tell her it's okay, provide some sense of closure, and feel sorry for all of the things that she went through. It's a different gift that Luffy and the rest could never be capable of giving, and Oda directly addresses this with Robin's request to Saul. I want to hear nice things about how I survived. This is the big moment of chapter 1133 and why he titled it Nice Things. A Straw Hat could say those nice things, but it would be empty and carry no weight. Saul gives Robin a gift that she has been looking for over the past 20 years. Comfort. Some may feel that this didn't need to happen, or it didn't need to be Saul, but it's better for the story that it is. We get to have a character that we're already attached to be the person who assists in what will likely be the greatest lore dump in the series. Someone connected to O'Hara. Zoe's lore dump was great, but it was given to us by new characters. There will be way more emotion and emphasis coming from Saul and Robin having a back and forth about their individual discoveries. But considering there are only 4 people in the Owl Library with Saul and Robin, Oda might wait for the full lore dump until Luffy and the others are there to hear it. Either way, I'm super excited for all future Robin and Saul scenes. There's also a secondary layer of emotion for me, as there is one moment in this chapter that hit me harder than the rest on a personal level. In the Oda box spread for Saul in 1133, we get the reveal that he is now part of the One Leg Club with Zeph, Kyros, and Kuzan. Panel right next to Saul's artificial leg is Robin saying, "Just like my mother." And for those who follow me on other platforms or follow the community posts, the reason behind no videos for the past few months is I recently lost my mother right around the time of the big Elbaf predictions video, the last video on the channel. And my mother had one leg. She was hit by a car in the early 90s on the night before one of my birthdays, and they were unable to save her leg. Doctor said she would never walk again. But My mom, Barbara Troy, had a One Piece level of determination and said, "Watch me." And after 7 months in the hospital, she was able to move with a prosthetic, eventually getting to the point where people would be surprised to find out. She was an athlete and a true fighter, even going as far as dancing with one leg eventually. She did it all. She did it by herself. No matter how tough it was or got, she didn't give up. She always kept going for me. More than anything, she proved to me that nothing is impossible. Basically, I learned at a young age that when someone tells you that you can't do something, those are just words. That critical teaching is absolutely the reason why I've been able to follow my own dreams and do, some of the cool things that I've been able to do in my life, because every time someone told me that I couldn't do something or such and such would never happen, I'd think of her and know that they were wrong. It could. There's always a possibility with the proper level of determination, will, knowledge, preparation, hard work, and the ability to keep at something until it all coalesces. That's definitely why the Straw Hats have always resonated with me. They all have the same level of determination that my mother had, so I love this goofy band of misfits for that. And when I saw Robin say, just like my mother, while looking towards the panel of Saul's new leg, even though she wasn't referring to the leg at all, I had to stop for a second. Because that's how it resonated with me, as Saul is now just like my mother. And while I, of course, wish we had more time together, I'm thankful and grateful for the time that we did have. It's hard to be concise about her, but all in all, she was super fun. The life of any party, had the biggest heart of anyone you could ever meet. She always put others ahead of herself. And if she had never bought me my first One Piece volumes in the early 2000s, who knows if I'd be here talking to you guys about this series. So the giantest, greatest, biggest shout out to my mom, Barbara Troy. Best to ever do it. And I wanted to share a bit of her with anyone still watching today so that she, like One Piece teaches us, is never forgotten. Thanks, Mom. And that's going to wrap things up for today. Thanks for sticking around. Please leave a like and comment if you don't mind to boost us back into the algorithm, as there has not been a video in a few months while I've been handling lifing. So YouTube will likely bury this video, and I'd love if they did not do that. Talk soon, everyone. Hope you have a great holiday season, and like, comment, subscribe if you're feeling the vibe.
I've been swimming deep, deep. Savage.